Alrighty. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. I know you have a choice for your Thursday afternoon presentation, so thank you so much for coming. And I'm looking forward to speaking about how to unlearn everything we know about intranets. So we try and shed some light on new perspectives that could give a new impulse to intranets. So first up, a fun guessing game. Guess how many different intranet products exist today. Actually, the Gartner owned Capterra listing of software has 63 intranet products listed. And then Clearbox Consulting in their 2019 Buyer's Guide for SharePoint in-a-box intranets lists another 55 solutions. So in total, we could say we have about 100 different intranet products to choose from today. So they all kind of share the same pool of features. They all have a blog, they all have tagging and, offer collaboration tools and help you with your knowledge management. And then their collective marketing departments has found out by selling you digital transformations that helps sell product as well. And if you're in your kind of business school 101 class, you would call this isomorphism. In a nutshell, it just basically means that they all have the same features, and if one gets a new one that gets some traction by Gartner or CMS Wire, then tomorrow they all have it. Now, if we stick with sort of social intranets for a second, this is the market share that we're seeing, and 50% of all social intranets are actually running on SharePoint. And then after that, you see a surprising number of homegrown and open source systems. Now, if you run those numbers, you may actually realize that they add up to over 100%. The question is why? It's because 70% of organizations use SharePoint in one way, shape, or form. That means there are many organizations that run at least 2 intranets. So they have SharePoint as their content-driven intranet, plus X, something of the enterprise social network variety. Does anybody in here have more than one product in the intranet variety at use at work? Yeah, oh, that's half the room, roughly, let the record show. So I'm not so surprised to hear about this, but given that there are 100 different products to choose from, it is quite interesting to see that really only SharePoint has a market share in the double digits. Now, what do intranet vendors suggest you should do with their products to make them a success? And I've actually went through a couple of vendors' blogs and accumulated those tips that they try and tell you what to do with it. So this is all straight from the horse's mouth. And the first ones are ensure stakeholder buy-in and have a dynamic homepage. But don't worry, it gets more profound than that. They would also like you to empower your employees and give it purpose, which really sounds more like something you would stick on an inspirational Instagram post. And then, you have this triage of reflect the company culture, really foster collaboration, write engaging content, and of course, who doesn't love it? Gamification, because turning the internet into a game has always distracted me from the fact that I hate to use it. And then my absolute favorite, we're not stopping there, my absolute favorite is don't just name your intranet, but give it a character. And these are actual mascots I have found on the internet. It's this gray hair dude that must be related to Mr. Clippy. And then this guy in a tie and a hat. Very engaging indeed. Now, I've actually prepared a list of mascots that I think more closely resemble all of the intranets I have come across before, or most of them, really. So first up, for your consideration, we have, why won't it find that blasted PowerPoint Larry? Can't we all emphasize with him? Then we have, hold on, I'm calling the help desk Karen. Yep, she's mad, guys. Something's not working. And my absolute favorite is reading all those engaging corporate news Herald. I actually have accumulated also a list of totally your fault reasons once things go wrong that internet vendors have come up with to kind of shift the blame away from them. And I just wanted to go through those quickly as well. If the internet went to hell in a handbasket, you probably didn't give enough attention to your users. That probably happens once in a while. Or you didn't integrate your processes but if the product doesn't offer any integrations, really nothing you can do about it. And again, this is straight from the horse's mouth. Then we have failure to inform staff. Well, unless you send them a fax or announce the intranet via messenger pigeon, I'm not sure that ever really happens. Then we have outdated information. And sure, the internet ghost town has been a well-documented phenomenon for the past 10 years, but it does start to sound a little bit like internet vendors' go-to get-out clause. Then next up is we have complicated navigation, yet if you have not enough structure, your search isn't going to work, and then your whole strategy and governance. To be honest, these are all just kind of the same reason. And sure, probably any internet could be improved in one way, shape, or form, but really all you need is an $18 ebook from step 2 to avoid making most of these mistakes. So, you know. And lastly, of course, you're either sending out too many email alerts or not enough email alerts. And if you're wondering how many email alerts are the ideal number of email alerts, the answer is 72. It is always 72. The sad reality, however, is that for the end users, this isn't quite as funny. They actually are stuck with a product that is just bad to use. Now, you might think I'm exaggerating, or you might actually think I'm speaking the truth that you've been thinking all along, but it isn't just me who says this. In fact, Gartner has said that since the mid-1990s, organizations have seen wave after wave of internet failure, renewal, stagnancy, and failure once again. So, how bad is it actually? Well, pretty bad. Buckle up, folks, because this survey wanted to know how many users are satisfied with their intranets. It asked employees and executives separately, and employees said a lowly 27% of employees thought their intranet was good or very good, compared to a lower still 23% of executives who thought the same. On the other end of the spectrum, a 35% of employees thought the internet was poor or very poor, compared to a staggering 38% of executives who thought the same. So let that sink in. You pour all of your heart and soul into something, and at least a third of your users think it's a poor or very poor experience. Just a couple of facts to underline this. First up, a study by IDC has found that on average we're wasting, or spending, you might say waste, a third of your time searching for information across multiple applications. And that is in part due to the sheer number of applications that we're using in the workplace. 61% of knowledge workers use 4 or more systems on a daily basis, going up to over 11 systems for just over 1 in 10 of us. So that's a lot of systems you have to juggle on a daily basis. And unsurprisingly, Forrester had found that 75% of users struggle to log into these multiple applications for benign reasons, like having forgotten actually which system holds what kind of data. They have forgotten their usernames, or they need the help of another person or department in order to access that data. But Forrester also found a very startling number, that 38% of employees are literally unable to access some of their data and applications inside the office. So I'm not talking on the go, any of this modern stuff. No, at work, inside the office, where 38% of us are unable to access some of the... I mean, to be honest, if I had a warning siren with me, I'd probably sound it right now. The question is why? Why are all of these intranet products not that satisfactory? That's what we've been asking ourselves, because what I haven't told you yet is actually my company Adenin has been perpetuating the same myth that only our intranet software is the holy grail to unlock your workplace productivity. And we've been asking ourselves this original mission from the 90s, to have a central portal and starting point where users come to in the morning, they find everything they need, nothing that they don't, and they come back to this portal throughout the day. Is there a modern way to recreate an intranet with modern tools that really do fulfill on this original mission from the 90s? And if you just follow me on this for a second. So basically, when we set out to recreate intranets, we looked at them sort of in the grand scheme of things. So in the top left-hand corner here, you have your intranet, your knowledge management. You might have multiples of these bubbles running in the same platform, or you might have 2 or 3 different applications running side by side. But a contemporary company in 2019 runs upwards of 20 different applications, sometimes 10 times as many. And they're all their own data silos. They don't speak to one another. I mean, sometimes they do. There are some point-to-point integrations, but they're usually very sparse. But then, of course, you also have enterprise search, right? Except it turns out that that also doesn't quite capture every piece of information that the organization holds. And then to make matters worse, you have mobile device management, or some of your applications have mobile apps. And then you end up with this kind of a hodgepodge of an experience where some of your users can access some of their data some of the time. And frankly, that wasn't the experience we were trying to recreate. Now, in order to better explain what we were actually doing, I want to briefly talk about APIs. APIs are a interchangeable standard that applications use to make their data securely interchangeable. And they've been around for a while, but there is a new type of architecture with APIs called the RESTful API. And it is likened to being like USB, but for your data. So if you remember pre-USB, every mouse, every keyboard, every monitor had its own little connector, and USB standardized all of this. And this is what people are saying RESTful APIs do for your data. And as we can see from this Google Trends graph, there's actually a lot of interest in recent years about RESTful APIs. And last year, already over half of all B2B collaboration was done via APIs. And experts say that better API integrations in software as a service products are on the up, because they actually tend to decrease development costs long term. Now, if we come back to this, your mileage may vary, of course, but the average intranet's reach is, sort of limited in terms of its integrations that it offers. But we wanted to, like I said, recreate this experience by capturing any data. Literally all the data you have available to you is the minimum amount of data we want to be able to integrate into this. And that's exactly what we have done with adenin Digital Assistant. And this is how it works. So I might just say, Alexa, how much leave do I have left?
It seems you can request another 91 hours, plus an additional 8 for charity.
Or I might be on my way to work. And remember, I want to go request a meeting with my colleagues. So I might say, request a meeting with Carrie from sales Thursday at 11.
No problem, Henry. Carrie's schedule is free, so I've sent out an invite for your meeting on Thursday at 11 a.m.
But these are just 2 of 10 innovations that we have packed into Digital Assistant. I'm going to show you all of these other innovations now as well. So here we have a screen recording of our innovations. So first up here, we see a stream of notifications that the user has in Digital Assistant. And as you go through them, you can decide to either click them away, or you can, they're actionable. You can open it in SharePoint or close it again if you are done looking at it. Then next up, it's letting you know one of your approvals, one of your requests has been approved. And then as you might be going through your notifications, you get more of them. So if it's someone's birthday, you can congratulate them, and it sends it off to whatever enterprise chat tool you might be using. And then you just go through your notifications, and when they're gone, they're gone. Next up is you can also ask the AI anything you want. So if I want to book a rental car, then I just say, hey, who do we book rental cars with? Except that if you're from England, you might call it a hire car, and the AI also accounts for the various ways people might go about asking for essentially the same thing. You get your answer, and then if you're asking about a hire car, you probably want to actually request one. So you get a little form here, just inside your assistant, where you can request this rental car. And it has your location, and the category, and the fuel policy. But this also works on the go. So it's a responsive design web app. You can use it on the desktop, or you can use it in your phone. So here we're just looking at an iPhone simulator, and just like you could on the desktop, you can just fill out this form on the go. And who wouldn't want to request more leave or request a rental car or any kind of an request really on the go? But then you're not limited to our app anyways. We also have chatbot integrations with most enterprise chat tools. For instance, Slack. You can ask the same question. You get, surprisingly, the same form. So you only write this form once, and it deploys to all of the tools that you have at your disposal. Then we have Microsoft Teams, which I think is very popular. And again, you ask who you book a rental car with. Unsurprisingly, the answer again is given to you is in this little card here, where you can fill out your form on the go. We also have our own little chatbot button that you can embed into existing websites. And if you have an existing intranet or an app, you can get one of these added to your own application, and people can just ask the same questions. Who do you want to book? Who do we use for rental car bookings? And it's just letting you know. Or you can ask, how much leave do I have left? And it's showing you all of these cards as answers, which is pretty neat. Next up, you might be browsing your enterprise social network, and you see, oh, your colleague here, he's attended some training. I wish I would know what training workshops are available to me. And if I have that question, I don't actually have to leave Workplace by Facebook. I just bring up Digital Assistant in here and ask the question. And it comes back with my answer. And, I go through it. I look at all of the available courses, make my decision. And there you go. Didn't have to leave Workplace by Facebook to get that done. Next up, I might be a project manager. I'm looking at all of the tasks in my project and I need to prioritize. And in order to do that, I'd really need to know a few facts and figures. So I can just invoke the browser extension version of Digital Assistant and ask it, show me recent sales performances. And it brings up a quick overview from Salesforce, just shows you some of the recent data. You can even expand it if you want to see a few more details. And presumably that's all I needed to know in order to prioritize accordingly for my project. And again, didn't have to leave this software here to make my decision. And of course, SharePoint is big. You can embed cards made with Digital Assistant inside SharePoint, side by side with web parts from SharePoint. And if you have a card and you're thinking, how could I keep tabs on it? You don't have to bookmark the page. You just pin the card to your board. So you go to your persistent workplace, where unlike the Now side, where you get the notifications, here cards are persistent. You can drag and drop them. Or if you're done looking at a card, you can then subsequently unpin it. So it's, if you will, it's sort of your own dashboard. And finally, another big area for Digital Assistant is approvals. Many companies use, up to a dozen different applications for their approvals, and you can unify their behavior with the use of Digital Assistant. So you go through your approvals one by one, and to the end user, it almost becomes irrelevant where the approval came from originally, because the behavior that you use is always the same. So if this PTO approval, you want to deny it because there's not enough room in your schedule to accommodate it, then, you fill out this modal and then it sends it off to whatever application is responsible for handling these types of approvals. And now finally, technically, this is labeled a case study. So I did just want to share with you what the great people at Cisco are doing with Digital Assistant, because you really need to see that, I thought. So this is what Digital Assistant looks like for Cisco. They have cards where it shows you an upcoming meeting and then lets you start it right from the card. It shows you messages you might have missed, your progress. It may show you your PTO status. So you can look up how much leave allowance you have left by asking Alexa, look in here, within, 3 seconds compared to the industry average of 3 to 5 minutes it takes you to normally look that up. And Cisco has really been on the forefront of the API-first approach. And they've really seen that using Digital Assistant is a new means to an end. So Digital Assistant taps into all of this data and really displays it in cool and new ways, which for the first time, they said, gave product owners and other vendors an incentive or a reason to see why they need to improve or add APIs to their lineup. And the results for Cisco have been sweet. As part of their digital workplace, digital employee experience program, Digital Assistant has been attributed with a 17% increase in workplace satisfaction and a 15% improvement in the employee's work-life balance throughout the workforce. And also workplace satisfaction increased by 17%. And 72% of new recruits said that the use of Digital Assistant has positively impacted their decision to join the company. But existing employees stand to benefit as well from Digital Assistant, as the company saw their attrition rates lower by $60 million. You don't get those kind of numbers all too often in this day and age, so we were very, in equal parts, humbled and excited to have been a contributory factor in this excellent development.